Reasons to serve. I've got 8 of them. If you don't want to be miserable, you want to give back and you want to grow in humility, watch till the very end. If you want to dive deeper on this topic, in the description I've got a link to an article I've written that goes into greater detail. This is the Lifecraft Co channel. I've been thinking recently about reasons to serve, and if anything that's been highlighted during lockdown, it's the way in which that we take care of ourselves first. We're inherently selfish, if we're honest, but at the same time we can look at that, be repulsed by that and go, actually no, we want to be good, we want to be generous, we want to protect other people. And so the way we responded to that extreme level of seeing shelves emptied and stocks being run low was to protect the elderly, to protect the vulnerable, to make sure that food banks were well stocked. And so you've got these two extremes that we've seen over these past couple of months, but what you realize is that we're proud of one of those and not of the other. Which one do you think it is? It's the way in which we have served other people that it makes us feel proud, not the way in which we've behaved in a selfish way. And so when we serve, not only do we feel good, not only do we give back to the community, but there's a whole host of amazing things that we get. When we serve, there's some amazing things that happen. So here are my top 8 reasons to serve. Firstly, it's easily the most respected thing you can do. Jesus, when he had 12 of his friends, the most notable character in history, known for humility, known for service, was at a dinner one day. And tradition had it that normally somebody would come and wash your feet, because you'd be out walking in the streets, walking in dirt, they'd be filthy, full of camel muck and all sorts, and they would have a paid servant to come and wash their feet. Now, on this occasion, the servant didn't turn up, he wasn't there. And Jesus, seeing an opportunity to teach them something, stands up, wraps the servant towel around his waist, and all eyes are on him at this moment. And he gets a bowl of water, he bends down, and he begins to wash the disciples' feet. They freak out, they lose it. They'd never seen anything like this before, because somebody who is respected, revered, a rabbi, a teacher, someone with prestige, doesn't do the role of a servant. What you can learn from this is that it's powerful when we serve others, especially when we've got influence and authority. At the end of this story, Jesus turns to his disciples and he says, "Now you have to do what I have done for you. Go and do likewise." And it's the greatest act of humility. It's the greatest act of servanthood we've ever seen. The reason being, it's a hallmark of his life, and every part of his life was about service. He said, "I came to serve and not be served." And what we learn from that is one of the greatest character attributes is serving others. Some people think doing rough jobs, dirty jobs, hard jobs are beneath them. But actually, you get more respect when you're able to do the things that nobody else is willing to do, especially when people don't think you should be the person doing it. It's easy to do, it costs you hardly anything, and virtually everybody in the world can serve in some small way. So serving is respectable. You might not think it, but serving is also very healing. That when you're focused on doing something for somebody else, it's very hard to think about your own worries, it's very hard to think about your own strains, and it's extremely difficult to be selfish when you're giving time away, when you're giving effort away, money away, energy away. When you serve, you find there's a healing process goes on because you're paying attention to somebody else. You're able to step a little bit outside of yourself. You get perspective, you get to see yourself from a different point of view. In fact, there might be scars that you're carrying. I know there's some things over my lifetime that I've picked up along the way, and when I've been able to serve others, it's allowed me to step aside and see the wounds, see the pain, see the scars, and have a different perspective on them. I'm no longer owned by them, but they fuel me as energy to serve others, to help other people. That people will walk through things that you've experienced, and you're able to help them with your experiences, your scars, your stories. That serving is healing. The other thing is it develops humility. Serving makes you humble. That it's hard to serve and be willing to do the tough jobs without a sense of humility. And humility isn't something you're born with, it's developed over time, it's conditioned, it's something you can learn. You know, having worked in some rough, greasy, smelly, dirty, low-paying jobs, I can tell you there's nothing more powerful than somebody who's willing to roll up their sleeves and get stuck in. And sometimes there's good reasons why people in authority can't do that. It's not always the best use of their time, but I tell you, it speaks volumes when they do, because it shows humility, and humility is a powerful part of a person's character. So serve because it requires humility. It develops humility. It might not come straight away, but over a period of time, serving continually develops your character, and particularly the aspect of humility. Now, I know what you're thinking. In the last shot, that door was open and now it's closed. Well, let me break it to you, this was done in 2 shots and the dryer's on, so the door's closed. The 4th reason to serve is that it is necessary to thrive, for communities, for society to engage well. It requires us to give of our time, to give of ourselves. Now more than ever, it feels like we're stoic, we're isolated, we're lonely, we're independent. And I think it is true that the wealthier a nation is, the less it relies on the help and kindness of strangers. If you take a look at the frontier movement during the 17th century, when Europeans were heading over to the Americas, and the way that they relied on one another for support, for care, for resources, for help when they were building stuff was amazing. In fact, even a more recent example, my nan, when she was alive, would happily help her neighbours. In fact, many of the neighbours would come over on a regular basis. She lived through World War II and you had to support one another. Fast forward to today, we moved in to this house. We knocked on our neighbour's door and what he told us was that this is the first time somebody in the neighbourhood had moved in and said hello within 20 years. There is a stark difference between communities that thrive and succeed and have a greater sense of wholeness and well-being, and those that feel isolated and lonely. And one of them is the way in which we serve each other. Another reason to serve is that it's a loving thing to do. It means that you care and you're concerned about somebody other than yourself. And that in itself is an expression of love. Love is an action, it's a verb, it's a doing, it's something we put into motion. When you love, you do something to show that love. And if you can serve others, if you can serve your community, then you can love others and you can love your community. And you might not even feel it, but at least you can demonstrate it. And often the feelings follow. The other reason is it is incredibly liberating to serve. What I mean by that is it's socially freeing, that you've got to speak to more people when you're working with people. And when you're serving and giving of your time, it creates unique conversation points. So you'll grow in confidence, you'll grow in people skills. That can be quite freeing when you have conversations about how you use your time. Most people talk about what they're doing, what they're achieving. You can talk about how you're helping people, how you're giving back. The other thing I'd say is that it's actually quite countercultural. Most people would have you believe that it's dog eat dog, or it's all about stepping on somebody and just climbing the next rung of the ladder. But when you give of your time, when you serve, what you're saying is, I don't buy into that idea. I don't buy in to the myth that I've got to push someone down in order to lift myself up. If you've got to trample on someone, if you've got to tread on someone to get ahead, then you're doing it wrong. Normally you can tell when people are out to serve themselves, and here's an easy rule of thumb. Go in the opposite direction when you meet people like that. Do the opposite thing that they're doing. The final reason I would say is that it eats selfishness for breakfast. In other words, if you live your life where you're giving your time, giving your effort, giving your energy, your money, whatever it might be, you could be serving in a homeless shelter, you could be serving in a soup kitchen, you could be giving your time to a charity shop, you could be on the Good Samaritans, you could be a listening ear. There's so many ways to contribute. But I promise you this, when you get to the end of your life, what you won't do is regret having helped people. You won't regret being selfless. You won't regret acting in humility. It eats selfishness for breakfast. What are your good reasons for serving? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Ciao.